Welcome back to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Yak Gadget. For all your kayak fishing accessory needs, go to yakgadget.com. Pelican cases, coolers, and lighting. Go to pelican.com. The 153 Bait Company. For all your hard and soft bait needs, go to the153anglers.com. Now let's get this show started.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Reel Down. If you're catching this when it releases on Wednesday morning, welcome. I'll throw this in there just because a lot of people think that we are live on Facebook that early in the mornings. I don't know if you've ever caught that in the comments, Drew. A lot of folks, when we posted to Facebook at like 6 a.m., they think we're already up and moving and got these guests on that early. So thanks for thinking we're that dedicated and motivated, really. But we're not.
Yeah, man. No, we love the sport, but my God, we got to get up early to fish tournaments already. Like, why get up early for that too? Come on, man.
I mean, I'd like to meet the guests that would meet me. It's
6 a.m.
like 5:55 to get ready for a podcast.
Yeah, no doubt.
What's going on, man? How was your trip? I didn't get to talk last week. I got caught up with work. I made every other podcast we do last week, but
I'll spare you all the long drawn out stories because we went over it really well last week with Dusty Yacker, Robert Weicker, and Ken Morris, and we all stayed in the same house, and everybody cashed checks or was in the top 10%. I guess. And it was a good time, and we recapped it very thoroughly there. So go back and listen. But the bottom line is, after day one, I was leading. They'd updated the standings for the AOI, and I was leading the Angler of the Year race for KBF. And I'm thinking, dude, I got a chance. I'm winning the Angler. I'm leading the Angler of the Year. I have a chance to possibly win this one more day, and then go to Hobie and possibly, take
Double
that
dip.
one too. So anyway, long story short, man, God had other plans for me in my life with everything. Obviously, I wasn't meant to be in the 10 or the AOI or whatever because my motor in the morning, 15 minutes in, a mile and a half away, blew up. It basically just started sparking and smoking, and it glowed orange, and there was a little fire going on in there. And I have a theory that I may have nicked a wire when I shortened the shaft. And of course, it's been fine all year, never showed any signs of having a problem. And it was shorting out on that, and it just, so I don't know. I haven't even opened it up to look at it, but either way, I was stuck in a solo skiff a mile and a half away, and I couldn't get to the water I wanted to get to, and I had to paddle it all day long.
Ooh.
Ended up with like 78.5 inches. But then I came back on day 3 in a little 10-foot paddle kayak on Up a Creek and ended up, cashing a check, I guess.
Do you have it on video?
No, I had
Dang
so much chaos going on, dude. You don't even want to know. I dropped my phone in the water. I was digging around in the bottom of the swamp after the end of day 1, looking for it in 4 foot of water. It was nuts. You got to go back and listen. It was crazy, but
I was telling y'all before. I've purposely kept myself in the dark on. I mean, obviously, I know what the outcome of the NC was, but I've been trying to keep myself in the dark on the listening until we had G on to talk about it. He couldn't make it last week, which is fine.
Yep.
And I'm just going to have to call him back. I said I was going to get a business call right in the middle of this. I didn't think it'd be in the first 30 seconds. But, I've been just wanting to hear it fresh, and G decided he could make it the week after, so we got it all booked out for today. And maybe some of our listeners haven't, they're true to us, and they haven't followed in on much of the NC stuff. But we'll go ahead and bring him in.
Yeah, man.
He's always fun to talk to. G's full of information.
Absolutely.
What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going.
There it is. Hey, man, have you had any rest yet? Have you actually kind of had time to let it soak in and just I don't know, man. What have you been up to since the big win?
Man, the answer to that question is I have not had time to let it rest. Ever since I got back, I've been busy with all kinds of things. Some related to having won the tournament, but mostly not. I got to sleep in one morning till 8, and that's every other morning. It's been rise and grind for me.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's funny too. Like after tournaments, forget if you win. If you win, that's a whole other story. But after every tournament, when you get home, so much life has piled up because you don't have time to get back to phone calls, emails, any work stuff during the event, and you're there for like a week. You know what I mean? especially longer, possibly at the NC. But so when you get home, it's all caught up and you have no time for anything. Now take in the fact that you won the thing. And my goodness, I can't even imagine like what it's been like. I mean, just a whirlwind, I'm sure. But we're glad to have you on now. Week after, we can get a little bit different perspective and talk
maybe
about
the brains had a little time to de-stress on it. Maybe something will pop in that you hadn't told nobody else, or maybe you get to relive it again.
Honestly, so I've had a few interviews and podcasts, and I feel like every interview and podcast that I do gets a little better and better. I don't know why that is, but it's like after I've had time to really process it all, it seems like I can really like put to words what happened better and better the longer it's been. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Kind of a weird deal, but it's kind of something that I've noticed over time as I've done kind of more and more little interviews and podcasts or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've noticed like things like that with myself in general. Like right after it happens, it seems like it's like a fuzz. But you give it a week or two. When I have to go back and think about it, it seems like my mind is. I don't know if it's calmed down, but I'll start to, remember certain details or just have that little bit more clarity on everything. So exactly. I definitely understand. Well, we'll get right into it just because it was a huge 3-day event. I want to talk first. I mean, again, a lot of people know about the outcome of the event by the time this show's airing, but how was everything? It looked, all the videos and pictures I saw, the venue looked cool. What they did for everybody looked amazing. How was the whole just overall experience?
I mean, so of all the KBF national championships that I've fished, I think this one was the best overall experience. Only because, it would make sense as they do more and more and more of them. They learn more and more about, how to use their time efficiently. And to me, this particular event was the best ran that I've experienced yet. Now, I did not attend the NC at Guntersville. I heard that was a great national championship, but this one was fantastic, and I think KBF did a great job. They took care of their anglers. They fed their anglers in so many ways, and so I mean, I thought it went very well. And honestly, after this one, I'm really looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of people. No matter what level it is, I feel like that they kind of showed out in a way. They had a big announcement. Like we're saying, the event was just, it seemed very top notch. I haven't heard too many. I don't think I've heard any complaints, honestly, other than like, damn, I wish I had done better. But that's on you. So
exactly.
There's folks catching 105 inches. You got to put in your own work, man. Mm-hmm. But
the stage was great. I loved their stage this year, and the fact that, I don't know if you guys could see this, Jimmy, from the pictures, but the venue, I guess, had such a large room. It had the big stage in front, but all around it, around all the seats, was actually like the expo as well. So it's all in one place. It's not like you're in some place that has separate rooms. You got to go to this ballroom to see the expo. It's like it's all there together where everyone's already, seated and hanging out, waiting for everything to begin. They can check out the vendors and the booth. So that was a really nice setup. Really cool. Nice. So
yeah, I was supposed to come down on Wednesday and help the Yak Gadget guys out at the expo, and I was looking forward to that. But every time I plan on doing something like that, work, like I own my own business, and I thought in doing that I would have more time to do things like this. Like I can make my own schedule. That has been the biggest crock that I have ever thought. It was like that for the first 6 months, but since then, like about halfway through this year, basically every plan I've had, I just had to like cancel, because every time it gets close, I was supposed to share a house with Drew, I think in Florida. Then we talked about sharing a house, I think in La Crosse. That didn't happen. It's chaotic. And that as soon as I did, man, we found a deal on hotel, everything. And then I went from like having 3 days where hadn't had any phone calls, got everything caught up and set, ready to leave, and then my phone blew up. I need it now. And I was like, God, all right. I mean, you made money. I'm over here complaining about making money, but
no, that's good.
It'd have been way, way cooler to make it down there for that. But But yeah, what I was saying though is it seems like it's such a good experience. I've heard and seen doing the other podcasts we have and listening to some other stuff. It sounds like there's a lot of interest going from anglers that have been kayak anglers for a minute. Seems like the people that were naysayers or didn't fish KBF for whatever reason are having that interest again. So I think going into next year may be another big year for them as far as participation. In whatever it may be, even the monthlies. But it's just seemed like there's been a lot of positive vibe going their way.
Yeah, it's a different experience. Wouldn't you agree, Guillermo, that the KBFNC is what I freaking love the fact that all of our the biggest elite events, whether it be the Bass Nation Championship or TOC or the KBFNC, they all are different in their own way. And what's cool about the KBF one is it really is not, it's not like, and they even say this on stage, this isn't meant to be the elitist of all the championship events. It's meant to be the most inclusive. It's easy to get into. Everyone knows that. And that's actually what we celebrated on last week's podcast. So when you go back and listen to that, Jimmy, you'll see that you can get houses with a bunch of guys. Like everybody's there. It's a big party. It's a big, kayak fishing rodeo celebration. And that's what makes it special, unique, and different. Not let alone, obviously, that brings in a lot more money for bigger payouts. And guys like G are obviously happy about that. So I mean, wouldn't you agree that's kind of like the cool thing about the KBFNC? And tell us, did you stay in a house with a bunch of people, or were you just kind of like dialed in, focused on just staying by yourself or with one or two other people, kind of like tight knit group?
No, we had a pretty big group for sure. And yeah, I totally agree with you, Drew. I mean, you could tell one of the things that, really stood out to me was the amount of people that, I had several people go up to me that, I never would have otherwise met. Amazing people that just either haven't put the time into some of the other trails, or they're just really, more than anything, they're fans of the sport, and they are there purely to participate. They're not worried about winning. They're right there because they just want to be a part of something, and they get to be a part of it through kayak bass fishing in that organization, and they get the opportunity to fish against people who might be honestly, they're kind of heroes, so to speak. Mm-hmm. The people that they look up to in the sport. And there's not very many events that I'll give you the opportunity to really compete with those people at what I would consider, the highest level. Now, while this wasn't it's not a TOC. I don't think anybody can argue that the TOC really is the highest level in the sport, because it is very difficult to get in. A lot of great anglers don't make it in every year. But when I say highest level, I mean competing for big money, real big money on a competitive stage. And these people get to be a part of that, and that means so much to them. And that was evident the entire time that we were there at the convention center. So many people, I remember, I mean, it kind of humbled me, honestly. So many people went up to me and said the nicest things. I mean, about how they've known who I was for a long time, and they followed me for years, ever since way before the days of the national championship. And that was really humbling for me, and made the experience all the better for me, even before I had the opportunity to win.
Yeah. No doubt, man. It's about community. That's what was cool about the sport from the very beginning. I know you know that, Jimmy. There's so many good clubs and groups in your state, but kayak fishing really became a family and a community. That's what was special about our sport. It's getting that fellowship for brotherly, sisterly, whatever, like guys, girls, whatever. Just the fellowship and the friendships that are made, and we've really changed a lot of people's lives for the better through the sport. So to be able to celebrate that at the national championship makes that event special in that way. And that's awesome. And then I think it's cool. The TOC is special in what you just said about being the most elite, and Bass is special because it's started all this. You're on the classic stage. It's a little bit of both there on that one, probably. So Very cool, man.
Yeah. We talk about it all the time, man, the camaraderie and the fellowship of it. It's like that. I was telling a guy just now, he was texting me telling me I'm sick of recording podcasts, man. I'm thinking about quitting. And I was like, nah, you're good. And he was like, there, we were talking, and he was like, well, there's so much negativity, going around, that you have to like dodge subjects and, whatever. And I was like, it's crazy that the fellowship's what got us all into it. And it seems like there's times where it's like I seem to lose that, like I don't see it. And then you hear about stuff like this event, or like going to an event, even a local level, man. Like I went to a weigh-in a couple of weeks ago, couldn't get out to fish, and just the hanging out at the end of it, and you're like, oh no, this is, you like, it brings you right back to like, no man, kayak fishing's still freaking awesome.
Yeah,
like I love all
it
these
is.
people.
Which does bring up the point we made on last week's podcast, and you probably will agree, Guillermo. I'm not sure, but you were very whipped. We all were after that whole thing, and I know you especially, from all that you had to go through, how many days you pre-fished. The one thing we said for KBF, they could, we had a few little things, they were constructive, you know what I mean? Obviously, because the event was amazing overall, but we thought, man, that one day where they hold that party for us at the, and there was a band playing, if they could have just done that on 2 days before the tournament started or something, or given us our top 100 day boards at the beginning, and then it was optional to stay because we all had to get back, charge batteries, sometimes multiple batteries, and we had a lot to do. I mean, I had a motor that blew up and I couldn't get back to start fixing it to try to find a way to get back on the water the next day because I'm there till 9 p.m. But that was definitely one little small thing that I thought could have been maybe tweaked somehow, because it's exhausting. I mean, tell us a little bit about how exhausting that event is, because that's what else makes it unique. But the reason I say I wanted that situation flip-flopped, because I do want the camaraderie, I do want to hang out, but just not on the second day of a 3-day tournament.
Yeah, not at 9 o'clock the night before the final day.
Right. Yeah, exactly. but I want to hear about how exhausted you were, man, because we've all been there. We're delirious at this event. It's like the most grueling, grinding event, which is what makes it so fun. Everyone's just like, I mean, I didn't have time to even take a drink there, but I guarantee if I had a sip of beer, I would have felt drunk, because I already felt drunk from having no sleep and hardly time to, So anyway, tell us a little bit about that part of the event, just the exhaustion.
So all I gotta say is that TOC is going to be the biggest beater of a tournament that I've probably ever fished in my life, because they let us use motors in the KBF, and I wanted to die by the time day 3 was over. I mean, I was telling a couple of friends that I was sitting by, like after day 3. I mean, I kid you not, I felt like when you're out there on the water, you're running on so much adrenaline that you almost don't feel it. However, the second that 3 o'clock hits and you are done fishing,
yep.
I felt like almost throwing up. Yeah. I mean, my body was
adrenaline crash.
After that 3rd day, my body was just done. It was so done. And kayak fishing in particular is unlike any other competitive fishing you can do. I mean, it's like, it really is like the Iron Man of fishing, because I mean, don't get me wrong, I see, even in the boat world, I mean, it's a physical sport to me, but you put yourself in a kayak and it becomes an even more physical sport, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't see it that way, but they don't have to. They're not in our shoes, but we're out there and we're fishing, and we know what it does to our body. And it 2-day tournaments with me.
Yep.
But I can handle 2-day tournaments. 3-day tournaments absolutely wreck me. And I'm just being honest when I say that. And by the time that tournament was over, I needed days to recover, and I still almost don't feel like I've completely recovered from it. Yeah. But I did need to recover. It was an absolute beating, and it honestly, it's got me thinking, man, the TOC is going to be that times 2, because that's going to be all 100% human power, and every single competitor in that event is going to be fishing so extremely hard. At the KBFNC, you can count on about probably, that those people, and you can just about handpick those people that are going to fish so incredibly hard and are going to put their all out there on the water. But so many people in that tournament are not. because they're not necessarily
Right.
there for the competition. They're there to be there.
Yep.
But at the TOC, everybody's going to be there because they want to win.
Exactly.
It really is. I mean, I don't want to compare it to a boat tournament, but I mean, from my perspective, it really is kind of the Bassmaster Classic, whereas like the KBFNC is like the All-American.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, I feel the amount of accomplishment that I felt from winning that event was truly special. I've never felt that accomplished from winning an event in my entire life, and I've had the opportunity to win many events. Only because I know that the elite field that was there fished their absolute tail off and wanted to beat me with every fiber of their being. And not in a malignant way, but in a competitive way.
Right.
Know? And so it felt incredible, to get the opportunity. And I think some people saw it in my face when they announced my name the winner. Guys like you and I, Drew, we absolutely give everything we have into this sport. I mean, we do. And when we get the opportunity to reap the benefits of it, the feeling that we get from it is indescribable. And that's kind of where I was at when they announced my name as the winner.
Dude, we could see it, man. I could tell. I knew exactly why you reacted the way you did. If anybody wants to go back and watch that, live stream, I haven't watched it, but I mean, obviously it was there and I saw it. But dude, the amount of just, you didn't know, your body did not even know how to react because you're so exhausted. You didn't know what emotion, and you could tell you didn't even know what emotion, like to feel, to come out. It was confused. It was like, it was one of those, but it was awesome, man. It was just, that's the NC. That's what's going to happen to TOC. That's, the top tournaments in our sport. That's kind of the way I think it should be, where the winner just spent so much. Everyone who's at that in the top 10 or whatever, like you said, they're just spent. And that is a true definition of a sport. Physically spent, emotionally, mentally, everything. And dude, you're right. Guys like you and I, and the ones who definitely at the TOC, I know this is probably true for you. I've never stopped casting in any tournament, no matter if I had just 2 fish and it's still, 10 minutes till lines out. I go 100% until literally lines out. And then, then I can complain or be upset or whatever afterward. I can whine and complain about a motor blowing up afterwards. But in the meantime, I'm going to paddle that, solo skiff around without a motor and I still think I could catch 98, 100 again. It didn't work out, but we're not giving up. So this sport is, people don't understand how fierce the competition is and how good the anglers are in the sport. They still don't get it yet in the mainstream fishing world, but they're soon learning. They're starting to learn that, I'm sure.
That's the thing that I think I lack, is because a lot of that is mental, keeping your head in it. Like you said, no matter what's going on, handling the stress of like people would think you're doing good. So it's maybe I feel like all the elite anglers like y'all would know that that's not true, but people would think, well, he's doing good, so he's probably like at the house, calm and relaxed. No, like you're dialing in, you're staying dialed in. You're thinking, okay, what's going to be there tomorrow? What do I have to do? Blah, blah, blah. It's just constant pressure. And that's the thing I can't handle yet. Like I can go out and catch fish. I can usually put something together, but I have trouble sticking in that mental state, to finish it. That's why I haven't fished any 2-day tournaments yet. If I struggle with that now in a 1-day event, I don't feel like I deserve to, put myself through that for 2 days, let alone 3 at the NC. I would have been one of those that G said, I'd have been down there just to participate, like just to show up and say that I had qualified and fished it. But that, I think that's something that puts all of y'all at a different level. Guys that do this, either for a living, like y'all, or that are getting to that point is, it's just like when you see, like you were saying, like a bass boat guy, that when you finally see these guys on TV, most of them have reached a different level than you actually understand. They're not just good at fishing, they're good at all of it. Whether it's how they run their boat or their time management skills. There's so much that gets you to that point. It's the same thing with y'all. Y'all aren't like as not big as kayak fishing. I do think kayak fishing has the potential to get huge, but to be where it is now, we already have people like y'all on that level of. You could probably just use the word professionalism, like everything as a whole. Like I said, the stress, the time management, being good,
Electronics,
everything.
avionics,
Like
mapping, all of that.
I don't feel like talking to all the people we get to talk to,
Mhm.
especially when it comes to an elite event. Nobody's lacking any of that. They've all got like on a 10 scale, at least 8. They're an 8 score out of 10 at everything, whether it be electronics. Like Adam Reiser might be better than you, Drew, on electronics, but you might be better in the shallows than he is, or you get what I'm saying. That's long drawn out. It's just I don't know that people understand like what level you guys are actually on, like all together.
I'll put it in perspective. So Christine, I was just talking to her, and she just got done fishing the Bassmaster Open on Grand Lake, and she was telling me that she's fished in 2 opens already, and she's gotten the opportunity to fish with the cream of the crop of anglers, and she's gotten the opportunity to fish with people that may not be the cream of the crop, at least in the opens. But those people, some of those people that she's fished with, she's like, I've fished with a lot of kayak anglers, and there is a lot of kayak anglers that I would put up against those guys any day. And I got to watch them fish for an entire day. And I know of a lot of guys that could kick their butt on a regular basis, and that kind of, to me, I haven't fished in the Bassmasters Opens. I'm actually considering doing it as a out of pure curiosity, just to see, just to give it a shot. She's done very well, and she's cashed checks in every Open as a that she's fished. But I'd love to do it out of curiosity, just to kind of see where she's coming from when she says that. And because I do believe, as kayak anglers, we do have some of the best anglers in the country. Not just kayak anglers.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
And I mean, and we've proven that. Of course, we've had some pretty high profile anglers enter some of our events before, and in some cases, they kick our butts, but in other cases, we go out and kick their butts. And
which is rewarding.
It is, no doubt about it. And I know any of those anglers that have fished in our events has gone on to say, no, these guys can fish. It's kind of nuts. Like I had to really work my tail off, and I still got my butt kicked by these guys.
Yeah, Yeah, no doubt. There's actually a couple ways we can also tell and compare what we're doing to the bass boat world. And one of them is, look at the tournaments this year that were held on the same body of water as the bass boat world, but the week before, week after. I think Lake Champlain was a good example. So was Pickwick. When Bass was there, Pickwick was just one of the best because it flooded before the Bassmaster Elite Series tournament, happened there. Mm-hmm. And then on the exact same day of the week on our tournament, the next week was a flood the exact same day. It rose, the levels were the same. And our weights links, converted to weights with the link to weight calculator were identical, if not more than what they were catching. And then you look at Champlain, it was more. The top Travis Von Neumann on the Hobie BOS and mine were a little bit more than what the guys who won were averaging. Oh, what tournament was that? Was that a Bassmaster event was up there? So,
I think it was.
And there was maybe one other event that was on the same time. But anyway, you can compare that way. And then just to say what you're saying about Christine, because I know she was with Joey Nanai one time, was one of the Z-Man guys with me, really good angler, and he won an Open. Might have been
he won Pickwick.
He might have been the one that So he won that one, but he's really good. But anyway, when I filmed Hooked on Wild Waters, my show I did for like 5 seasons, I was fortunate to have some guests on there that, were on the bass boat side of the world that I become friends with, and Brian Latimer and Chris Lane and Stetson Blaylock, guys that are just sticks,
hammers.
And I go out there and I'm not even really thinking about, I'm just worried about there's so much else going on, hosting the show and everything else with the production. And then all of a sudden I realize, like, oh man, like catching more fish than these guys are. And I guess, a little bit was they're not used to being in a kayak, you know what I mean? And I'm kind of in my territory, wild places. But that told me just right there, I was like, man, I know for sure between this length to weight calculator and being able to compare the bass boat tournaments, to what we do in a very close proximity within a week of when they have their events, plus what you're saying about Christine, plus the fact that I fished with these guys, 100%. Any of the top, I would say the top. We have about. We're not as deep as the overall bass boat world. Like we don't go as deep. We have like 50 anglers that are 75, maybe 100, maybe at the max, that are just like unreal. Could go and compete on any of those top bass boat tours. We don't have.
I would say that
Five.
they, let's say kayak anglers of that level you're talking about, I think them stepping up into the boats, you would see a trend where they're going to do better than the opposite, seeing a boater go backwards into a kayak, just because it's a learning curve. I'm sure that they would eventually, give them a few events or some time. You'd see the boat guys. I mean, like Iaconelli's a great example. He's fished a few of the events, and you've watched him like do good, do really good, and then win. Like, it's like he's starting to get the swing of being in the kayak. I think, and I've seen it with even people like Craig Dye. I think he's doing the Bass Opens. He's co-angling in something. BFL, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, he's a great angler all around. And I think it'd be cool if there was some kind of mixer event, like,
oh yeah,
10 elites, 10 of our best off of the power rankings, and put them on Gunnersville or something. I'd love to see what would happen.
Now that would make good TV.
That would.
Yes.
That would, dude. Hey, Guillermo, would it not frustrate the just daylights out of you to be a co-angler and not have control of where you're going on the day and what to do when you could probably catch them better than the guy, potentially better than whoever you get paired with? But then that's why I can't imagine how Christine feels out there. Like, we need to go here, do this, like, 'cause she knows what she's doing big time. So would that not just frustrate? I couldn't do that. I could never do the co-angler thing. I could only jump into it as a boater. I could never do the co.
There's no doubt that it would frustrate me, but I think, if you can go into it with the mindset that I'm only fishing against co's. Everyone that I'm fishing against can't choose where they're going, has to make the best of what they got.
Right.
And I think if you go into it with that mindset and consider this, I mean, I feel like kayak anglers would make the best co's, because when we're put in situations where something's not necessarily working out, we're not always in a scenario where we can just dump everything and run 20 miles down the lake. We got to make do with what we've got available to us within a close enough proximity.
Right.
And so therefore, I see, as a kayak angler, I see that being hugely advantageous to fishing as a co over somebody who's used to fishing in a boat and used to just being able to do whatever the heck they want and go wherever the heck they want. So I mean, if I end up doing it, I don't know if I will. I mean, I want to do it, honestly, curiosity. I want, and honestly, I mean, one of the things that she's mentioned has been a great opportunity to learn.
It is.
She's gotten to fish with, I know she got to fish with Nania, who is one heck of an angler. And she also got to fish with Perozanik.
Oh, wow.
And one of the things that she said about that guy was that it didn't matter where, I mean, you could pick some of the most complicated casting scenarios on planet Earth, and that guy wasn't going to miss a beat.
Wow.
He was going to put it exactly where he wanted to put it. It wasn't going to take 2 tries. It was going to be right there, right then and there on the first try, right where he wanted to put it. She was one of the most impressive things she's ever. He said, that's something I've honestly, there's not a kayak angler that I've seen that's been able to do it that well.
Right.
So there's certainly some guys up there that are at the absolute top of their game in what they do. And, in that particular scenario, he was 100% fishing his strengths.
Yeah.
But what I feel like we have in the kayak world is a plethora of anglers that are so versatile because we have to be. We have to be versatile. afford to not be. But otherwise, we're going to be put in a lot of uncomfortable scenarios, and that's not fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, not at all. I've said forever that I thought kayak anglers would like is the longer this goes on, you're going to see that a kayak angler is like better equipped overall because of what you just said. We're limited on area. We're a lot of the time, like what I was going to say is you talk about being on the back boat, you're getting the scraps. There's a lot of the times, like if the weather's bad, that's what you're getting anyway. You're getting just whatever's left because it's what's available to you. And I don't have a problem seeing more kayak anglers do both. I think it'll be, especially if we start seeing some of our guys winning or doing better than the boater. Because I think Craig, I follow so many people that have been doing it. I think it was Craig, like outfished his boater one day or something like that. And he was talking about it in one of his posts. I mean, not bragging or anything, but talking about the guy was just like, oh, well, what are you doing? Like, help.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, that's really cool. It everything's like, I don't know. It's growing. The interest is everywhere. Like they know we're here. I think that they probably appreciate us staying out of the boats for the most part. Because there's a lot of anglers, I think that, I mean, y'all too, Russ. I mean, I've heard from people from California that are very glad Russ is in a kayak. They're like, we greatly appreciate him not running the boat world around here anymore. Here's a little one. I don't know if you've talked about or if you've even seen it. I'm sure by now it's made the news, but I know Boyd Duckett was talking in an interview and had mentioned about MLF getting into kayaks possibly. And the only, like, no detail, but only weight in that game is most of the time if he says that, within a year he invests money in it. So who knows? I mean, would that be, obviously everybody'd give it a try. Do you think that'd be a good thing or just too much saturation, too many good things?
I don't know. G, what do you think, man? Do you want to go first in this one, or?
It's a really tough call. I think anytime you bring a new organization into the tournament scene, especially a new organization that wants to put together a top of the line event, it encourages other organizations to improve. And that's never a bad thing. However, I also think if it gets oversaturated, I don't think there will be, and I saw this happen in Texas. I don't think there will be any one organization that will carry enough weight to actually take it to the level where it can be an elite deal. So just to give you an example, about 6 years ago, the Cats tournament trail in Texas had about 180 people per tournament. 6 years ago, that was pretty unheard of anywhere in the kayak tournament community, but Texas was doing it. We had I mean, an insane amount of anglers per event. But over time, more and more trails popped up, and now, I mean, we've got more trails than we know what to do with. It's absurd. And as a result, there's really not one trail that's really gaining any traction. And there's a couple that are certainly higher end of the scope, but there's not one trail anymore that really has the traction, that really has the attention of the whole state. And whereas before, winning Angler of the Year in Cats was a big deal. And it's not saying it's not anymore. It certainly still is, but like, it doesn't have the attention of the entire state like it used to.
Right.
The entire state used to find out and follow that, and the entire state doesn't follow that anymore. The entire state has been split up in so many sectors, and I see that happening potentially in the national scene, and the more that happens, I think the more it takes away, potentially, at least. I mean, I hope not. I don't really, the state of our sport is so young, so it's hard to really know what's going to happen with it. But I think it does take away from the guys that are trying to really make a living at it.
Yeah. It's diluted. Diluted.
You get put in a situation where you have to pick and choose. You have to pick one, and you don't know which which trail is going to be the best for your brand. You
Right.
really don't, because you don't know what trail is going to take off the best, and you kind of have to guess. And every trail that we fish has kind of its pros and its cons, and it's things that it does better and whatnot. But I mean, I do fear that if the tournament scene, the national tournament scene, especially the elite national tournament scene, gets oversaturated, that's going to harm the angler who's trying to make a living more than it's going to benefit them.
Yep.
I would say the only way that wouldn't be true is if, like, I agree with the oversaturation 100%. The only way that wouldn't affect everybody is if one was just doing everything right, which is not going to happen, at least not quickly.
Right.
So like if MLF comes in with the reputation they have and a big plan and a lot of money, I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. I mean,
let's look at what's going on in the bass boat world. I think the bass boat world is an incredible example. I mean,
it is.
The elite, let's face it, FLW and the Elite Series were the deal.
Yeah.
We all watched it. We all followed it, and now we have the MLF, and we add, FLW has changed, MLF has bought them, and not saying that that's necessarily been harmful, but I don't really know what's going on anymore like I used to in the pro world.
The MPFL is around now. There's a fourth, if you want to call it fourth.
Wow, so I mean, it's crazy. It's harder to follow. It's harder to be a fan of the sport, in my opinion. Now, that's not to say that I'm not, I'm not still a fan of the sport, and I don't still follow everything the best I can. But like, it is a little harder than it used to be for me.
Yeah, it's tough.
And I don't see why that wouldn't be the case in kayak fishing if too many trails took over.
Yeah. The big thing that I noticed from when MLF stepped in, more so when they took over MLF, was like it kind of took the shine away from the elites. Like as a kid growing up, like you said, elites, FLW, but elites is like the real deal. Like that, most of the guys you would spit a name out, that's what they were. And then you saw that elite trail like go to, not taking away from the guys that were still there, they're all great, but you saw so many big names just dip and hit MLF. Like, I don't know, it just seemed like what the elites always has been just lost that glory. And not taken away from MLF. I actually love the format, especially like the first year. I agree. It was just a dink show, man. Just catch 500 1-pounders if you can. But like now, the way it's going, you see so many guys catching so many good fish on camera. And, obviously as kayak anglers, we love the process they have for the fish, get it in, get it out, take care of it or get penalized, no weigh in, like you said, everything's got a pro and a con. We do love that, but I think by attacking it how they did, just like we're talking about, we've made it back around, it hurt everything overall. Because I don't watch anymore because, like you said, it's hard to keep up with. There's like Drew said, there's another one, the MPFL. Like I'm trying to keep up with the Opens, the Elites, MLF. MLF has got so many broken down divisions now. Like, you catch it on TV, and there's the Bass Pro Series and the Toyota Series, and there's just a lot. And it's just like, for me, I'm like, okay, I'm like, all right, I'll just catch the results somewhere.
Yeah, it's basically what, and Guillermo, you brought up the best example. It's, the bass boat world and what this could be in the kayak world. I will say this, it dilutes it so you don't have the best anglers actually, you don't have the Elite Series guys competing with the Major League Fishing guys and the top MPFL guys or whatever series you want to say. They're not together at one time. So it kind of is like, are they really competing against the best of the best? Because some of them are in this series, some of them are in that series, some of them are in that series. And if that happens to kayak fishing, not taking anything away from even Iaconelli and his win, but we're already split between 3 major trails, and I don't know of any of the top, the top power rankings on anyone's list. The top guys were at the Bassmaster event, Bass Kayak event on the Chesapeake. And again, nothing taken away from Ike, because he went and caught his fish and he still may have won even if the top guys were there. We don't know that. So he did his thing. He can't control who else enters, right? But it does a little bit for those in the know who are following it they kind of look at it and say, yeah, I mean, he won, but where was Guillermo? Where was Jody? Where was Russ? Where was Christine? Where was Cody? Like, it kind of like it takes the luster off of some of the stuff, and that's what we're trying to prevent. So, I mean, if they do it, cool. But if they do it, they better come in with live stream and, maybe an elite series of guys or something different. I don't know, like do something just different. Because otherwise, like you said, it's going to be Texas all over again, or the bass boat world all over again. The last thing I'll say about this, the best example we can follow, and I hate monopolies, but in sports, they're good. The NFL being the top of the league where the football players end up all together in one league is the best thing for it. Baseball's the same way.
It's certainly good for the players.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt it is,
and I think that it would be good for the anglers.
Yep.
But the reality is we right now, as it stands, we have 3 pretty amazing trails, and I think we're honestly with those 3 trails, I think we're in a good place in the sport.
Yep, we are.
I do fear. I mean, it's unavoidable as our sport continues to grow and more people start to notice. There's gonna be more things that pop up and more sanctions that try to get up there and become a part of the bigger or the, what do you call it, become more elite in what they're trying to do. But
we already see that now.
I fear that it's just gonna make the life of people that are trying to make a living out of it a little harder, because you got to make tough decisions and you got to hope it works out.
Yep.
And I know for some people, moving to MLF worked out great for them, and I know for others, just because everybody fishes differently and everybody has different strengths, for others, it didn't work out as well,
No clue what happened. Sorry about that.
But it's a gamble, and nobody wants to make that gamble. Now, all I hope is whatever does happen, with new trails coming in, I hope they find their own little niche in the trail scene, and it all shakes out the way it's supposed to, and we can still have our opportunities to grow and find our place in the sport. The sport is growing so fast. And I didn't, for a while, I didn't think it would keep growing the way it is, but it is still growing. It is.
It's insane. I do agree with you what you're saying. And we have 3 good trails. And right now we can all fish. We can fish. All the top anglers can actually, within their schedule, fish all 3 and be in the running for AOYs and both or all 3 if Bass does one next year. And that I fear will be not possible with a 4th major one if that happens. So we'll see how it shakes down, but no doubt about it, golf is the best example. The PGA Tour, there's no debate on planet Earth. If you are on that tour, you are competing against the best of the best. The league gets the best TV deals because all the top golfers are there. The anglers, the golfers all know they're competing against the best golfers. All the money is there in one place, the eyeballs. It's not like, spread out, which is the issue with what happened. So it'd be great if there was one major, Major League Baseball or NFL, if that ended up happening, but it just doesn't seem like it's possible right now. And, in the fishing world, and the boat side and the kayak side, and that's okay.
And honestly, like I said, our sports, I think it's in a good place. I think the three trails that the big 3 at least that we have all have their own niche, and it works.
Yep.
And
Definitely.
Like you mentioned already, we're, as anglers, it hasn't become so saturated to where we can actually dip our toes in all 3 and be competitive.
Yeah.
And
great.
Like I said, am I a little concerned about a bunch more people coming in and trying to be the big dog in the scene? I'm a little bit, but like I said, I hope that if they do, they find their own niche way to do it, and it can just be another sanction of our sport that makes it great.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And before we get off this topic, my biggest hope for it all is like you said, it's in a great spot now. I think considering how relatively young this still is to be where it is and working is great. Just hope nothing screws that up. But we'll get off that because we can all go on about this all night, and we usually do. But I want to get back into the NC, man. I'll let you. We've been on for a while now. I don't want to keep you too long, but just I won't say, day 1, day 2, day 3. Just give us a rundown of how the whole event went, however you want to.
Sure. Well, I mean, in practice, I had done research 2 years ago that going into NC 2 years ago, that helped a lot this year. I knew I didn't have to research it. I knew that the lake was going to be drawn down, Lake Bistineau was going to be drawn down going into the event. And I thought to myself, man, I don't really know, in some cases that could put the fish in a real funk and make them really hard to catch. But I didn't really know what it was going to do. But I knew that I was curious about it and I had to go find out. And so that was the very first lake that I hit in this. And man, I had one heck of a day that very first day. And so at that point, I knew that at the very least I was going to spend the majority of my time practicing out there. I was certainly going to try to have a backup plan, but then, I would go to different parts of the lake and realize that the bite was really not that different anywhere. It was good just about everywhere. And the fish were setting up in a really similar way just about everywhere. So from then on, I honestly didn't end up practicing anywhere else. And I decided there was one ramp that I practiced at that the launch was just no fun. And I thought to myself, man, I know kayak anglers. There's going to be other anglers at this ramp, come tournament day. But realistically, there probably won't be that many, and maybe that's something that I can hang my hat on, it was a ramp just like any other, public access ramp on any other lake. It was just the lake was drawn down an additional 2 feet than the normal drawdown. So it was just low enough. I mean, if it had been 6 inches higher, what's crazy, those 6 inches would have made a difference between being able to launch from the ramp and having to drag however long it was. I've heard people, say that it was a mile, and it certainly was not a mile.
Fish story is getting longer.
Yeah, but it was a long enough ways that it kicked my butt every single time I did it. But anyways, nonetheless, I figured, well, maybe that will put me, and I knew that already put me in an area of the lake that I liked the best. You could actually reach a lot of the water that I fished from other ramps. You just wouldn't be there first thing in the morning. I mean, you'd get there maybe 15 or 20 minutes after first cast, which honestly on either day, I hardly had anything in the boat at that time anyways. But the first day of the tournament was just nuts. Early on, I didn't catch too many big fish. I made it a small adjustment. The wind was blowing, if I remember correctly, the wind was blowing pretty hard on the first day all the way from the morning. I mean, from early in the morning. So I automatically had it in my head that I had to be throwing a spinnerbait, and I was getting bit left and right. First thing that morning, I was using a copper bladed spinnerbait, which is one of my favorite blade colors in that kind of tannic water. I've just always really liked copper. I don't know why, but it's worked well for me. We have a lot of lakes here, especially in East Texas, that have that black tannic water. But about halfway through the day, I switched to white painted, which is my other favorite black tannic water combination. And it was nuts. I mean, it seemed like every fish that I was catching was suddenly 2 inches longer than what I caught all morning. And I don't, it's hard to tell if I would have put that old spinnerbait around all those same trees, if it would have been the same. But man, in my head, it was not the same. And that was the spinnerbait that I needed.
That's all that mattered. That's right. Confidence.
Exactly. And I started putting a lot of really good fish in the boat. And a lot of it had to do with, and I'm sure anyone following the leaderboard noticed, I mean, I wasn't really catching big ones till later in the day. I just wasn't. And it might have been just a quality of the area that I was fishing or whatever was going on out there on the lake. But it was crazy. I had to kind of fish with confidence that no matter how my morning went, I had to rely on those afternoon fish, that those afternoon fish would come if I just kept my head down and kept grinding. And they did every single day. And I was able to work my way to 100 all 3 days with those afternoon fish. Those afternoon fish did it for me every day.
That's awesome, man.
That's, yeah, I mean, and just to get back to a comment that you made about, how the bite was, how you were having it just about on any part of the eligible water. I mean, a testament to that is all the way down to 25th place on day 1, day 3. I don't know why day 2 is not going down that far, but they had at least 90 inches, and you had, 5 to 7 each day hitting 100. I mean, now there was a lot of eligible water, but I mean, let's be real, it's still, that's an exceptional fishery period for that, especially with it drawn down, like you said. Like, my experience with fishing a lot of heavy drawdown is that funk. I hardly ever find where it's, just on fire. They're usually in that funky,
and I think
mindset.
Part of it is those fish are used to the lake getting drawn down.
Right.
It happens every single year. So maybe, it's just like, for example, like on Kentucky Lake versus Lake, they pull current on Lake Fork seldomly, but when they do, those fish hate it. They hate it so much. But the fish on Kentucky Lake are used to it, and they love it because they're used to it and they know it's coming. And I guess, on in an example like Bistineau, those fish, they do it every single year, never fails. They do it the same time of the year. So those fish already know it's coming. They're used to it, and it's no different to them than any other lake. Whereas in a lot of lakes, they get low, the fish aren't used to it, and it just downright puts them in a funk. But I knew I had to find out what the heck it was going to do to those fish.
Yeah, dude. I'm exactly like you, Guillermo. I got a house with a bunch of guys. We were on Caddo, and I'm talking like the very western side in Texas, right where the bayou comes in. So I'm a long way away from Bistineau. But, I was just like you. I said, I've got to go check it out because I'm just too curious to know what would it be like during the drawdown. Because in 2019, when I got second at this championship, when it was held there, I was on Caddo. Bistineau was not drawn down, but I did catch an 8-pounder over there without a drawdown on one day of pre-fishing. Only caught 3 fish, but that was just, a few hours. But it ended up on Caddo and it worked out. But I was like, dude, but what about if Bistineau is drawn down? What's it going to do? And I ran into you and Christine on the first day I went over there to check it out. And I was up in the more like the northern end of the lake in the river or whatever. And you guys must have been exploring other ramps and other parts of the lake that day because you'd already figured out some stuff down the lake. So I only had a couple days, 2 days over there on Bistineau. And I did drive by and I saw the ramp that you put in at. The one I'm pretty sure is the one that you put in at. And I did see that, it was going to be a lot of work and a lot of effort. And I'd done well on the northern end of the lake, where the river comes in, the bayou. So I said, well, the same thought crossed my mind. I said, I don't think a lot of people are going to be launching from this area, so I'm sure it's not going to get as much pressure. And I didn't know how much bass boat pressure that the entire lake was getting either, thinking, well, it still may get pressure from bass boats during the drawdown. But anyway, I was very curious about that. And it was really cool seeing you guys up there. And the first day of the tournament, when you and Christine and whoever else wasn't at my ramp, I was like, what do they know? Where are they? Where are they today? Where are all those guys? And I know we're probably on some fish according to, some people talking and whatever. And it turns out, you had a little bit more time and you guys did find I think the bigger fish were definitely where you guys were. I was lucky to catch, it's what you guys were. Christine was telling me she was surprised I got 98 inches out of where I got on day one. So I can't complain but anyway, you guys definitely had found where the winning fish were, man. And it was just exciting to see you and Cody and so many others, Russ and, everyone just catching fish, smashing them and having a good time. And you're just such a good representative of the sport. So I was happy to see you up there and taking this title for sure, man.
Thank you, Drew. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah. Definitely Drew, I was rooting for you, but after talking with you, G, after Pickwick, when I saw your name up there on day one, I was like, he's my pick for, somebody that's probably got this dialed in. And I hope you both do well. I think it'd be cool, G, if you walked right out of the NC and then went and kicked it at the TOC too, just to shut the door, bolt the lock down and just, all right. I'm done. I did it. I'm out.
That'd be unreal, man. If you could pull that off, that'd be unreal.
Man.
Because you came off a win at Pickwick, right?
You know, I have the opportunity to do it, and you bet that I'm not gonna let that opportunity. I'm not gonna take that opportunity lightly. You know,
That was my next question for you. Yeah, like we've already talked about the stress, and you said you still don't know if you've caught back up. But have you already flipped your focus to that next item?
I'm gonna be honest with you. While I'm looking forward to it, I can't say that my focus has quite been flipped yet. Only because, I've got so much I got to take care of just from a non-fishing perspective.
Right.
Here before we can start thinking about that with work and whatever it may be. But you bet. I mean, I'm one thing that I'm certainly preparing myself for is for it to be a beating. I'm mentally preparing for that. I know, one of the things that I had to tell myself from the very first day when when I was getting into the 90s on day one at the NC was this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. Pace yourself. You fish hard, leave a little on the table every day, but don't quit fishing hard, but just make sure that you're staying sharp and that you're saving a little bit of energy every day because you're going to need it by the time that last day rolls around.
Yep.
And in the TOC is going to be no different. And in fact, the TOC, because like I said, the motors are out of the question. So it's all human power, and that's really going to be a marathon. And my hats off is going to go to whoever wins that tournament, because it's honestly, regardless of how the lake fishes or what happens, it's gonna be one of the. It's really this particular TOC is going to be extra special for that reason. It's the first that I can think of. It's really the first event of its kind that's 3 days long, that is so exclusive. No motors. I mean, it really represents in so many ways what our sport is about, and for that reason I'm really excited, but I'm mentally preparing myself for it to be very challenging, because it'll be very challenging, and it'll be very taxing. So That's really what I'm preparing myself for more than anything. It's just understanding and knowing that it's gonna be a total marathon, and by the time it's all over, you're gonna be tired, G.
Oh yeah,
no doubt about it. Well,
go ahead and cancel your plans for the week after.
Yeah, for sure.
I'll tell you what, I'm not canceling my plans for the week after, because it'll be duck season when I get back.
Oh,
there you go.
That's a big.
It's a perfect time for switching gears to that, though. I would feel like no matter what happens, no matter how you do, after the year you've had. I mean, Drew. I mean, I know that you've got some stressful stuff going on right now, and you got the kid coming. That might be a good break. As much stress as a newborn baby is, after a big tournament year, this is like a great different focus, to relax. As much as you can. Same thing with UG. I mean, I'm a hunter too. I kind of burned out on fishing early this year and just immediately started looking forward to deer season just so I could recharge on the fishing thing. And after the TOC, I think duck hunting is going to be a perfectly timed for you.
Every year, I fish so hard every year that I can't wait to duck hunt. And by the time duck season's over, I can't wait to fish.
Exactly, dude. That's funny.
It really does reset me. I mean, I may touch my rods once during duck season, and not because I don't love to fish. I absolutely love to fish, but just because I kind of need to reset. It's good for me.
Yeah, when you do it that hard, when you go so hard at it, like kind of full time, like we do, Guillermo, you need, like, fishing is really not. It's you love it and we're passionate about it, but it's not the hobby anymore. You know what I mean? It's not as quote relaxing as everyone thinks it is when we're going on these trips. It's not like it used to be. So it's kind of funny because you see this common theme with so many pros on the Elite Series or MLF pros. Matt Airy, good friend of mine, Elite Series angler, was second place in the Classic. He fishes, but I'm telling you right now, his passion and hobby is hunting. That's what he fishes to hunt. the passion. 'Cause that's like his job. It's become his job now. And he loves it. But when you're doing it at such high level, it just takes so much like time and dedication. It's not what it was when you're just going on the weekend with your buddies when you're growing up. It's just not. It's not the same thing, but it's still obviously better than, being in a cubicle, working at some job somewhere in a bank or whatever, obviously. But anyway, it's funny. You see that a lot. There's always I don't get to do it much anymore. I'm kind of busy with the family, but I like to play golf, when I'm not fishing, just ignore the rods, go hit some golf balls and just be outside.
Isn't it funny how all of us, we have fishing and we have another hobby, but they're always expensive. Like duck hunting is not cheap.
Yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. I dabbled in duck hunting this much, and I don't want to think about the money I've blown in that already.
Oh yeah.
So like, G's cashing checks right now. That money's already in the blind somewhere. He's already got these hunts set up. I'm like, all right, I got to win another one.
Dude, when I saw
got a new shotgun I need.
I saw decoys where we were on Bissano. I saw some decoys when I ran into G and Christine. I was like, dude, you got to get Sanderson over there. You guys need to hunt some ducks up over here. Are you going with Joseph at all? Do you still go duck hunting with him some? Or?
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Him and I don't hunt as much as we used to together, just because him and I don't live in the same city anymore. But we still got together for several hunts a year.
Yeah, nice, man. Hey, speaking of other Texas guys, I'll shout out to Matt Scotch, who was third, by the way. I don't think we've mentioned him yet on the podcast, but I like to make sure we mention Scotch as well. Wasn't he third in the NC? I think he was.
He
third.
was.
Yeah.
Milton was second. Scotch was third. So shout out to him as well. I know you guys are close too. So, but anyway, hey, before we let you go, I know we'll probably be wrapping up here soon. I want to tell a funny story, not a funny story, but a story about Guillermo. I think is one reason why he's, you've become such a great ambassador for the sport. And, just one of the reasons I was most excited to see you win. It wasn't because, we become friends throughout this process in the last several years, seeing each other at tournaments and whatnot, just whatever, I don't know how long we've really known each other, but it's not because of that I was excited. It wasn't just because I know you're your friend and I'm pulling for all my friends. The main reason I was so excited to see Guillermo win was the fact that when I got off the stage at the Bassmaster Classic and I finished fourth in the Bass Nation Kayak Championship, there's a small group of kayak anglers that came in to cheer the anglers on, the top 10 at the awards. Christine and Russ and Guillermo, you guys were all sitting together. Lambert was there. I think a lot of you guys were all sitting together in a little group. And when Mark Pendergraft won that and lifted up that trophy, I've never seen somebody so excited in my entire life that wasn't a family member for Mark. And Guillermo's over there with his hat off. I'll never forget this, dude. I looked over and I was like, who's going crazy over there? And it's Guillermo. And he's jumping. His hat's going in the air. And he's just like, yes. Dude, that right there, I was like, that is the kind of person that we need in this sport that has the compassion, the heart to be genuinely happy for others who they're competing against. That was cool. And that showed me all I needed to know about Guillermo right there. And so that's why I was so excited that you took home this title, man. Cause I know that's kind of in your heart. You're not coming into this cause we can't play defense in our sport anyway. So it's like, why be so bitter towards somebody? We should be happy for each other. And cause all we can do is compete against the fish. Right. So that was a cool moment, a cool Guillermo story for you there. And I do appreciate what you said on stage about the grace. You've been praying for grace to, whether you win, you lose, just do it in a way that God gives you, the proper grace to accept it, and grace if you win. And that's honestly what became sort of what I needed to hear in my prayer, because man, my ego and everything was up here. I was leading the AOI and only an act of God, which is what happened with my motor kind of blowing up at the wrong time of the year for me, prevented me from potentially taking some stuff that it would have meant, a lot to me, obviously. And I needed to hear that as well, that prayer that, hey, you know what, these things just happen. And you just got to have this sort of, I don't know, the grace to just accept it and understand it and be happy for others that, they can't control what happened to me. So I'm very happy for you guys that did win, because you did what you had to do, man. And I appreciate your mantra out there, what you stand for in this sport. So thanks again.
Thank you, Drew. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man.
Well, man, I can't thank you enough for coming on, and it was cool. This was a little bit different interview for the NC than I even had expected. getting to talk to you more about some of the real stuff other than just how you did at the event. I thoroughly enjoyed it, man. Hope everybody else does too, but I was going to give you a chance, thank anybody that makes fishing easier for you, and we will let you hopefully get some rest.
Well, I mean, shoot, I can't think. I've gotten the opportunity to thank everybody I don't know how many times, and I still have trouble with it, to some degree, because it's there's so many people that I have to thank, and I get in my head, I'm like, man, if I don't remember everybody, I'm not going to feel good when it's all over. It's not because I don't. It's because I want to make sure everybody gets their proper recognition. I want to so bad because everybody's so helpful. But of course, I got to thank all of my sponsors: Diablo Paddle Sports, Warner Paddles, St. Croix Rods, Fins Fishing, Excite Baits, among so many others. Yak Attack, among so many others that are so helpful throughout the year, and with anything that I need to make this lifestyle work. And so I'm so thankful for them, and I'm thankful for all of my friends and family, and honestly, and complete strangers that have shown me so much love and support throughout this whole this entire process, even before winning. Messages and texts from people that I've never met in my life saying, hey, I don't know you, but I'm pulling for you, man. Go get it done.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me, that meant a great deal. So thank you to everybody that offered me so much support. So, and of course, thank y'all for having me on the show. And I look forward to hopefully getting to hang out with y'all where we're not on the show and getting to enjoy a beverage of choice.
For sure.
There we go.
I hope to catch up with
awesome.
y'all all next year at some point. I miss all the hanging out. I got to hang out with Pendergraph and a couple of guys at Pickwick, and I actually ran into you on the water in Texas. I don't even know if you'd remember that. I think it was the last day of pre-fishing. Me and a couple of Tennessee guys ran into you at the ramp like late in the day, and we talked a little bit, and then that's the fun part for me is the hoo-ha and drinking when we can and telling lies and trying to throw each other off our game. And
dude, that is the fun stuff. Remember we ran into each other at on the Flint River at the very first Hobie as well, Guillermo. We hung out the ramp for a long time while Christine and you guys ran a shuttle. Yeah. That really is the stuff that I remember sometimes more than anything. It's just that fellowship. So definitely need to get back to some of that. I'm so glad COVID's finally dissipating enough where we can do that kind of stuff. And it's been a fun year, man. But yeah, good luck at the TOC. We'll see. Hopefully I can make that. Got this little girl making things interesting, but more on that later, I'm sure. But yeah, man, it's been a good one.
I'll definitely be praying for your whole family, man. I can imagine that's stressful. I can't even imagine what that must be like for you and your lovely wife. But I'll definitely be praying for y'all, and I have complete faith that whatever His will be, it will be done.
Exactly. Yeah, man. I appreciate that. Thanks so much. And I agree with Jimmy. This was a cool, different style podcast. If you want to go check out the full recap of how, more detail of Guillermo's big win, I'm sure you can go get that on KBN or other podcasts that Guillermo's done. So go check it out there. But I really enjoyed this different style too, man. Thanks for hanging with us. Jimmy, any other things you need to close with here?
No, that's it, man. We'll let you go, G. And then I got a few other tournaments to do a little recap on real quick. And that's about it. But, man, again, I appreciate you coming and talking with us again. It's always fun.
Thank you so much, guys. We'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks, G.
All right.
See you.
All right. Always a good show with G. God dadgummit. I figured out what it is. My mouse is dying. And it's like, as it's dying, it's clicking across on stuff. And I'm trying to, keep it off the screen. But
dude,
anyway,
bad time for that. It's kind of like when your motor blows up. All right, last time I mentioned that. All right, but anyway, no, that was a good time with Guillermo. One of the best for sure, man. Always.
Oh yeah, always fun talking to him, and again, good luck to you guys at the TSC. And but we had some few other tournaments that went down. We wanted to hit on real quick. The first up, Jackson Orr's 4th annual catch and release charity event. It's a nationwide event they do every year. It's 3 days, best 5 fish. This year he had 101 anglers. First place was Doug Wilson, 106 3/4 with a 24.5-inch kicker. Second place, Sherman Bishop with 105 3/4 with a 23-inch kicker. And third place, Jason Starley with 104 with a 23 1/4. So big fish happening everywhere. Going on from there, we had the 2021 All-American Kayak Classic on Truman Lake. 2-day tournament, 171 anglers.
It's a big one.
5 fish limit. There were 1,000, I think, it's either 1,004 or 1,040 fish caught. I feel sorry for whoever was scoring that event.
Yeah.
But first place, Brian Hillman, 170.5. Second place, Troy Caldwell, 166 1/4. Third place, Scott Stolman with 161.5. It's 1,070. I was wrong.
Do you have to qualify for that event?
I actually don't know anything about that event, which is kind of strange.
It's starting to become, up there. Like, you know what I mean? In terms of, it's not one of the majors, obviously, like the TOC or the NC, or the Bass, but it's starting to become one of the next quasi, like the next events down, if you want to say that.
Yeah.
Majors, if you will.
But
go ahead.
I was gonna say there's a couple, like you're saying, that all have, like stick out. That one, the I think it's in Texas, but there is a few. Queen City usually has, I think just their Trail Series events are huge. They have tons of turnout and a lot of good anglers, and there's usually good numbers.
No, they do. But I don't know if they have any, I think this All-American is more of it's like a regional. I think Scott Stolman's from Minnesota, for example, and this is on Truman Lake. Where was it?
Clinton, Missouri.
Missouri. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is like a regional. I don't know if anyone's coming from like New Jersey to fish it, but I'm saying like within the surrounding 15 states, 10 states, there's people. It feels like the next one that's kind of. I mean, look at it, 170 something anglers. How much does this guy win? I mean, what's the entry fee? $100, $200.
I think it is $100. I wish I had found that.
I need to.
What we may do is I may reach out to those guys and see if we can catch them for next week, because we could talk about that.
Yeah, a lot of good anglers are in it too. It's a good one. So anyway, but I would like to see our sport with, no matter, I don't think obviously we're having an elite series anytime soon where certain anglers are stuck in that. I think we're all going to fish the different ones, but either way, even if one day we are stuck with a certain trail because we've made a contract with them to fish their events, I still want to see our sport have like 3 or 4 majors where, let's say some elite anglers are in this group. Again, we'll use the Bass World, FLW, Bass, or MLF. You got top anglers in all of them. I wish there'd be majors, kind of the way golf does. PGA Tour doesn't run. They only run one of the majors. I've mentioned this before. U.S. Open's done by the USGA. The British Open is done by the group that's in Europe. And then you got the Masters, which is run by Augusta National. I'm telling you, if we have 4 majors that are run kind of separately, we can always at least have the elite of the elite competing in like 4 massive events every year, no matter if they're stuck and committed to these other trails for the regular season stuff. That's where we need to get. Anyway, I agree fully. That's something I wanted to touch on when we were talking with G about it, but that conversation went plenty of good directions. So, but next up on the list, Texas Kayak Championship Classic, Welsh Reservoir, 2-day tournament, 25 anglers. First place, Caleb Helbig with 192. Second place, Brian Howell with 187 3/4. Third place, Tyler Howell with 187.5. So, 2 pretty good days for all those guys. No kidding. Wonder if you had to qualify for that one. Only 25.
I'm pretty sure you did because of the 25 angler thing. Because like G was saying, there's like 30 or 40 clubs I think in Texas that.
Yeah,
I swear.
Like hopefully that All American didn't take that many people away, where only 25 showed up for a big championship.
Right. Just a couple more. There was an event in the Carolinas with Carolina kayak anglers. It was like 4 trails. They called it the Battle at the Border at Kerr Lake. It was 53 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Jason Hensley, 79.5. Second place, Bruce Deal with 77. Third place, Michael Marborough with 74.5. So that was a grinder.
Yeah, it was a little lower than I would think.
Right. I thought I read earlier that it was 4 fish and it was 5. So, oof. And then last one on the list was the Delaware Paddle Sports Kayak Bass Fishing Series season finale. It was a statewide event with 36 anglers, 5 fish limit. First place, Jerry Schaffel with 84 1/4. Second place, Matt Campbell with 80 1/2. Third place, Alex Fiolko with 78 3/4. So not too bad,
No.
That's probably honestly out there. That's probably a pretty good day.
Yeah,
I'm
I would
not
think
too
so.
familiar with Delaware waters, but sounds like it was pretty on par day.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So yeah, well, appreciate everybody listening again. Had a great show again. If you want to hear more in-depth detail on how Guillermo's 3 days went, KBN had him on. He's done a couple other interviews. I don't mind you at all. I'm not telling you got to only listen to us. Go check it out. Don't know what we got next week. May reach out to the All-American Classic guys if nothing else big is going down. I'll try to see if I can figure out if there are any other big tournaments going down. But we're winding down on that in the year. Me and Drew have already talked about it. We're going to find some show topics, relative to tournament fishing, but it won't be direct tourney coverage. It's just getting harder and harder to get guests because the seasons are coming to a close, and that's kind of the end of that. But we'll have club directors on, talk to guys about setting up trails, all sorts of stuff. We'll cover all of it. But,
absolutely. And I'll mention this now since we talked about earlier. With our child coming soon, and a few complications, it's kind of turned into a high risk pregnancy now. I may be taking a little hiatus off this, and you may find somebody else to fill in, and I'll still be, available for sure to pop in from time to time in the off season to talk about these topics, and we'll just see, what happens. Right now, it's obviously the priority for me, but still excited about, schedule talk. There's so many cool topics that we can get into in the off season that I know you guys will get into whether I'm here or not. But anyway, you guys that's just a heads up on why I may not be around some of the podcast in the next, I don't know, who knows? It's just all up in the air. Who knows?
I'm not letting him go nowhere though. We'll get him back at some point.
Yeah,
he's stuck with paddle and fin now. So
it's a good break. It's a good break from whatever is going on in my life, and just like it is for people listening, this is a good break. Because there are definitely more important and serious things in life than fishing and kayak fishing. But our job here is to, entertain you guys and just hopefully give you a good distraction away from whatever may be going on in your daily life that's making life tough. So hopefully you get to laugh and learn a little bit at the same time here on these podcasts. And thanks for watching and listening.
That's it. That's a good closing statement. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
All right, go Braves. I think they're winning 5-1.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jigmasters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to Jigmasters